and being used, okay? These are non-hoax events. These are actual WMD events that occurred. And chemical, no surprise, easiest to get a hold of, most commonly used, okay? Biologics, radiologics, lesser number, but still being used, okay? This was written by Al-Qaeda. They actually gave the directions to create a cyanide dispersal device, okay? How many of you are familiar with Inspire magazine? A couple of you? Yeah, Inspire magazine, the English language publication of Al-Qaeda. They've been running a series of articles on producing, bombs and stuff like this. And they have these step-by-step instructions on how to develop this sort of weapon. And they provide a list of targets. And I like teaching this in medical settings because you'll notice hospitals is one of the targets that they list as a potential site, okay? This is also from Inspire magazine, and they've realized that, it's tough to get bomb-making material in a lot of places, so we have lots of other ways we can inflict casualties. Things like parking lot bombs, like taking your vehicle and using it as a weapon, and we've seen that. We saw it in New York City, we saw it in Germany, and we just saw it again in Germany the other day. And then I like, in particular, the last one as a way to inflict damage and casualties, starting forest fires, okay? Obviously, with the weather in Colorado being what it is, as dry as it is, it could have a significant impact should this occur. So lots of bad guys out there, okay, who want to do harm. You've got the lone individuals like the Timothy McVeighs. You got terrorists, you got doomsday cults like Aum Shinrikyo in Japan, state-sponsored groups, the identified groups like Al-Qaeda and ISIS. So lots of folks out there. These are the anthrax letters. They think they identified the sender, but that's still open for debate. The guy that sent these did a great job, okay? The anthrax that was in these, well prepared, ideal for creating illness in those exposed to the anthrax. These are 3 of the 6 letters that were sent. Aum Shinrikyo in Japan, multiple attempts to release toxic materials. They had 2 sarin attacks. You're probably all familiar with the one in the Tokyo subway. Okay, they actually tried one before that. They tried to release botulism toxin several times. We're not particularly successful with that. They actually got their hands on anthrax and released anthrax several times. It turns out the anthrax they released was a non-toxic variety. Their supplier was actually a government agent who gave them a non-toxic version of the bacteria, but they clearly did that. And then they tried to get their hands on Ebola and tried to weaponize that. They were not successful doing that, okay? This was published last year. These are the top 5 deadliest terrorist groups in the world at the present time. And while we think of groups like ISIS and Taliban and Al-Qaeda, in fact, Boko Haram has been the deadliest for the last couple of years. Overall, there are over 160 identified terrorist groups out there in the world. So, as we look around our community and we look at where we work and live, think about what the targets are in your community, where someone might want to attack. Look at a slide like this. What are the targets here? Yeah, I would submit all of them are potential targets, okay? Where you work, identify the potential targets. Obviously, schools are easy for us to identify given the events of the last several years, okay? But what are some of the other targets that you might consider as potential targets, okay? And if you think about them, enclosed spaces, easy. Large numbers of people in a small space, easy to inflict large numbers of casualties. What facilities and infrastructure do you have? They might be nice targets, power plants, etc. Okay. Places that have chemicals and that sort of thing that would be dispersible. and potentially create damage as well. Okay, so where can you get the stuff? It's out there. A lot of it is not that tough to make at home. Got your home chemistry set, make it at home. Okay, most of it's being used in industry, laboratory, commercial products, military sources, tougher to get perhaps. Our medical and university facilities, they all have radiologics, biologics, chemical agents that they're using for research. Okay, you know, how secure are those places? And then obviously our nuclear facilities as well. So the biggest fallacy is the belief that the only place it's going to happen is New York, Boston, Washington. Okay, it won't happen here. Okay, I mean, how many of you would have thought that somebody would take a bomb and try and plant it in Nederland, Colorado, as they did not too long ago? Okay, you know, it just won't happen. I gave a talk like this down in Durango. Okay, now, if you lived in Durango, and you were a terrorist, is there a target in Durango you might want to hit? That's nearby. Okay, well, that's not a bad target, but people there are going to be pretty spread out, so you won't get that many all at once. Freshwater supply, tough to really do a lot to our freshwater supply. What's down in Durango? There's a school down there, which clearly would be a target. How about the train? The Durango-Silverton train. Tourism in Colorado. Okay. Never occurred to them that would be a target. It's a perfect target. Think about how many people ride that train every day in the summertime. Ideal target. Okay. Think like a terrorist. Look at your community and think like a terrorist. These Be Nice agents are so deadly, everybody's going to die, there's nothing we can do. Throw our hands up, run around, scream incoherently. Okay, not true. In fact, if you get to a scene involving one of these agents and people have vital signs, the overwhelming majority of those people should survive if we recognize what's going on and we initiate care. There's a lot we can do. Okay. Well, the goal for these agents is let's disperse them over a large area. Most of them are either a wet or a dry aerosol. We need to disperse them. Okay. How do we disperse them? Lots of ways. Well, one way is vectors, the letter packages, like the anthrax letters. Okay. Not unreasonable. You're not going to inflict a whole lot of casualties. It's only those people that come in contact with it. Okay. Insects and animals. Well, again, not a very effective way to infect large numbers of people. Contaminated clothing. Yeah, that'll work. It's happened in the past if you're a fan of history, right? The British did that during the French and Indian War with infected blankets with smallpox. Gave it to the Indians, got them sick. Contaminated food has happened, the salmonella attack. Tough to do. Contaminated water, even harder to do. Okay. Braking devices. It's not an unreasonable way to disseminate something. I could take something like that light bulb on the left. I can fill it with anthrax, okay, and then maybe go to, how about the Grizzly Rose? Take my light bulb, and in the middle of a concert, toss the bulb, let it break, let the anthrax spread throughout the Grizzly Rose, okay. Not unreasonable. Again, you'd like to have a little bit of wind to help disperse it, expose more people to it, okay. Maybe a better way is I take whatever material I want to use to spread and attach it to a small explosive. Now I can spread it over a larger area. Now I can potentially affect more people. Again, I need a little bit of wind to help spread it out, okay? I have to do this well because if I make the explosive too big, you know, I might destroy the chemical or the biologic that I'm adding in there. So I gotta know what I'm doing. Here's an even better way. Let me take my anthrax or my chemical agent and spray it, ground or air, okay? Wonderful way to spread material. So, depending on the agent that you choose, and depending on the way you choose to deliver it and how much wind there is, you can affect small or large numbers of people, okay? So, choose wisely. Well, let's talk about chemical agents and casualties. And let's talk reality. The reality is, most of the time, you're not going to deal with it from the perspective of a terrorist. You're going to deal with it from the perspective of an industrial accident, maybe an agricultural accident, that sort of thing. So you as firefighters are going to see this much more commonly than terrorism. Okay, but terrorism does happen. So let's talk about chemical warfare and agents. These things have been around a long time. World War I really got things going. It's been used well before that. The ancient Greeks and ancient Romans used to mix up an obnoxious concoction with sulfur, set it on fire, allow the wind to blow it over their enemies. But World War I really was the start. We've seen it in the Middle East conflicts, Iran and Iraq during the 90s. We've seen it as terrorist use, okay? There's World War I. You can see the battle line. You can see all of the chlorine, in this case, that's being released from that. Of course, you get down on your knees after releasing it and pray that the wind doesn't change direction, okay, and blow it back on you. But significant number of casualties. Chlorine was perhaps one of the first that was used. Mustard gas used extensively. Phosgene used extensively. Chlorine and phosgene still roll down our streets every day. It's used in industry. Okay. Mustard still easily available in a large variety of settings. One of the largest depots of mustard still is down in Pueblo. They've been slowly destroying that stockpile, but we've got a huge supply of mustard down there. And many countries still have